Here we go. Spawning in the top right-hand corner of Ancient Cistern, we have the Brazilian Terran player representing Team Liquid. Oh, it is Kelazhur. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Blue Protoss player representing Shopify Rebellion from the land of the Netherlands. It is Harstem. Here we go. Kelazhur, a lot more of a stylistic player, even in this matchup. We have seen him go for proxies from time to time, or even 2-base all-ins, pulling the boys. We've seen a lot of him in WTL, in World Team League, for Team Liquid. But what does he have to offer here for Harstem, as yes, if he does get across the map? Oh, and is looking for an eBay block. Let's go. Does avoid the probe, did go the long way around, and Harstem does miss it. This engineering bay is going to get quite a lot of progression here before Harstem gets an eye on this. And Harstem is going to be in a really awkward position. So he may be forced to take the unnatural natural. He may be forced to take the third base as his natural instead. Otherwise, there's just going to be such a massive delay here for him. Probe does get eyes on that eBay across the map. Interesting, Kelazhur, he did go for a single gas opener, but he's going for a factory instead. And there we go, Harstem is forced to expand at his third base instead. Again, it would just take far too long to DPS down and deny this engineering bay just because it's got so much HP already. And this is going to make Harstem's life really awkward, especially against initial Reaper and Hellion harass. Defending both the natural and the main base is going to be so difficult here for Harstem. We'll see if he can keep up. As Kelazhur does cancel that eBay. Oh, and he's getting ready back at home. Again, because of the faster factory, it looks like he does want to get into Hellion production, which makes a lot of sense, especially considering the opener here of Harstem. Okay, Hellions are on the way. So Kelazhur, he delays his CC here in favor of looking for economic damage. And it isn't a sure thing. To be fair, Harstem, he can set up like with shield batteries in his mineral lines, with better SimCity in his main and his natural base. His second base. Hellions are going to reveal themselves. But only 2 Hellions. Interesting, as we trade an Adept for a Hellion. Kelazhur is going to be forced back. But Kelazhur, he's actually going into a 2-1-1 setup. Very fast stim here out of Kelazhur. I was really not expecting this. So he reveals Hellions and he reveals aggression, of course. But he's keeping Harstem back at home and he's hiding his follow-up. Rushing into stim like this isn't really of the norm in this matchup. Yeah, and there's that starport on the way. So it's a 2-1-1. Let's go. This kind of rose in popularity in TvP, I want to say around March, a couple of months ago at the start of the year. We saw Maru and Björn and Cure as well making use of this build. It's more of a TVZ build, as you can imagine. The downside to this, of course, is, you don't have any defensive Cyclones or Vikings or tanks. This does heavily delay tank production. So something like, say, 4-gate Blink Stalker or even 3-gate Blink Stalker can do very well against this. But Harstem went for a Stargate opener. Like, specifically against Harstem, I do think that this build is favored against him. We'll see, though. As the Phoenixes are moving out, of course, Stargate opener into Phoenixes. Not into a Robo. Interesting. So Harstem is mixing things up. Despite him going for the same build every game against Baby Marine, he's not going for a Robo. He's going for a Twilight Council instead. So this is looking like Phoenix Charge, not Phoenix Colossus. as the Hellions do dive into the main base, does force a recall. And we do get a couple of probe kills. 3 probes go down, not too bad. This also keeps the Phoenixes back at home, and that is going to create an opening here for Kelazhur. Oh, this is wild. Okay, so it's a 2-1-1, but he's going for a mine drop, which means he won't have medevacs to support his Marines. He does have stim, bear that in mind. So these Marines are quite potent. Oh, Widowmines, they do get caught out. Oh, both of them are gonna go down. Kelazhur bleeding out a lot of these important units. Here we go, mine drop does come into the natural and up. Oof. Big connection. The probes that were pulled into the Marines does force a stim, and we're gonna be able to focus on every single one of those sentries. A good moment here for Kelazhur. 8 probes, the sentries. But he did lose 4 Widowmines, and he may even lose this medevac as well. So Harstem is looking to hunt it down. Mind you, I'm just going to try and buy as much time as possible, but it will fall. And Kelazhur just non-stop Marine production. Could even go for another push. He did keep the majority of his Marines alive. There we go, medevacs are coming out. Going for drop play is always a risky thing to do against a Phoenix opener like this. But he's going for it. He is going for it. Meanwhile, I believe charge is done for Harstem. He's got a decent amount of charge ults here to defend back at home. There was a delay, but he is now getting into Colossus production. Robotic Spay on the way, and here we go. We're going for the double drop into the main base. Marines have been spotted. Again, going to be distracting Harstem. Does scan the natural as Kelazhur goes into the main, and there's nothing here to defend. We recalled earlier. 5 probes go down. Phoenixes, they can't engage either. Go for the pylon. At the same time, we have that secondary force. Zealots are in position though. Kelazhur, he doesn't bust into that 3rd base. Again, good positioning here behind the mineral line. May lose his army here to the Phoenixes, but no, he does carpet bomb the natural base. Does take down a Phoenix. GG gets called. It's just too much, and Kelazhur takes game number 1. Oh my god. Going for not just a 2-1-1, a very unique variation of 2-1-1. Going for... There were layers. I loved it. Initially, we revealed the Hellions, right? Which made a lot of sense to go into Hellions when Harstem was forced to take the awkward base. But he only made a couple of Hellions. Then he went into Widowmine production instead. And despite going for a 2-1-1 setup, he used his medevacs for mine drops. And just moved out with those Marines without any support. It was so interesting to see it all come together, and it was so well thought out as well. Especially the combination of the mine drop with the Marines coming in from behind. GG. GG, well played. Completely pulling Harstem apart, and Kelazhur takes the lead in the series. As we get into game number 2, again, a very unique build out of Kelazhur. Something you don't see too often in this matchup. Always a really risky thing to do, especially against all those Phoenixes. But for the most part, he was able to avoid them. For the most part, and here we go. We're diving into game number 2 and spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Babylon. We have the Brazilian Terran player representing Team Liquid, leading the series 1-0. It is Kelazhur. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the blue Protoss representing Shopify Rebellion. It is Harstem. Down in this series, he needs to fight back here and now to force the ace match. And again, I mentioned it earlier, but I do feel like that build from Kelazhur specifically is ideal against Stargate openers, against specifically the opener that Harstem was going for. I do think that it can struggle a lot against more Blinkstalker heavy play. But I also don't expect Kelazhur to do that again. I don't expect him to do that again in this series, even if this goes to the ace match. I feel like it's more of a one and done sort of thing. So show me more. That's why earlier I was talking about how Kelazhur is a very stylistic player, very unique player, always coming up with his own builds, or at least willing to try out some of these more unorthodox builds. That's why it's always a lot of good fun to cast Diego. Always, always. As, oh my god, okay, so Kelazhur, he's going for a very greedy opener here. He doesn't just go for a Rax Expand, he is going to be skipping his SCV Scout this time. He's also skipping his Reaper Scout. He's going for a Reactor first. So, very minimal scouting information from our Terran player, and 0 units as well. Meanwhile, Harstem, he's looking for a proxy. Kelazhur is in his mind, is living rent-free. Harstem is going to be keeping that probe here hidden here on the left-hand side. Meanwhile, Kelazhur just going straight into marine production, going into his factory follow-up. This is always a really risky thing to do, just because, again, he has no idea what Harstem is doing. This is a risk you take, but correctly identifying that Harstem isn't up to anything too crazy. We can even see here in the initial units, Harstem going for a sentry opener as well. He's terrified. With this sentry, it's very defensive, not just when it comes to shield batteries, sorry, force fields, but you go for a sentry typically to get a scout off. He's opting to go for a hallucination scout, which will tell him everything he needs to know. And I guess it makes sense, especially after that previous game where Harstem wasn't aware of the 2-1-1. Oh my god. Harstem, he's crazy, puppy. Okay, so that probe was patrolling here for a good reason. Harstem, before his tech, he goes for a gate. One gateway, not just into his natural, into his third base. Very greedy play here out of Harstem. Oh my god. The third Nexus before the second gate, before the Stargate as well. Alright. we're ready for some StarCraft, Papi. Here we go. We do have our initial marine push out, move out, sorry, and this is a scary moment. There's no shield battery, there's 2 units, there's 1 adept and 1 sentry. There is a force field. Oh, you can see Kelazhur trying to bait out that force field. The gateway is going to go down, which means 1 force field is not enough. Forces the Guardian Shield instead. We get in, and again, we barely have anything to defend. Boys may have to be pulled. Sentry goes down. Oh, the Stalker as well. Boys are pulled into the Hellion. And this is already becoming too much. The greed here of Harstem. He had 2 units, 3 units to defend, 6 probes go down. This is already too much damage. And Kelazhur, his follow-up may just end the game. He's not just going for a mine drop. There is an armory. An armory with this as well. Detection will be required to clean up these Widow Mines. And there is no detection. We do have a Stargate, thankfully, so we can get an Oracle out. But, it's gonna take some time. It is going to take quite a lot of time as the mine drop is coming in. The Phoenixes are out of position. They will not deny the drop. We have 1 Widow Mine heading towards the third base. We have 1 here in the natural, and we are also headed towards the main. GG gets called. And Kelazhur takes the series at 2-0. GG. Oh my god. Harstem was so greedy that game, and of course we mentioned no detection was available for Harstem either. And just like that, in a swift 2-0, Kelazhur takes down Harstem. GG, well played. Oh my god. Kelazhur, calm down. Diego, oh my god. I mean, I say that, again, that was also on Harstem a little bit as well. Again, the initial move out of Kelazhur with, like, what was that, 4 Marines and a Hellion, that already dealt almost game-ending damage on its own just because Harstem was cutting so many corners in game number 2. And with that, Yeah, Kelazhur takes down his opponent 2-0. And we have a couple matches left. We have a couple of matches left tonight. Not too many, not too many. Coming up next is going to be a ZVZ between Rainer versus Lambo, and then we're going to end the night with Forjumi versus Baby Marine. 5 best of 3s. 5 best of 3s. We just wrapped up with our third. We have 2 left, which means we have hit that halfway mark, which means we're going to be going on a short break. Going to be going on a short break. When we return, we'll have the second half of the broadcast. We'll have the remainder of Group A. So we still got plenty of StarCraft. Still have plenty of StarCraft ahead of us. Just gonna take a moment. Gonna take a moment here to gather our thoughts, to get some water, to drain our disruptors, to hydrate our hydras, to stretch our roaches, and yeah. Hope you guys have been enjoying yourselves. Hope you guys have been enjoying the broadcast, and we'll see you guys in a couple of minutes with the rest, with the finale of Group A. See you soon. See you soon.